Okay, everybody. Welcome to this week's Fast Track webinar session. We're going to be having a general session covering online customer booking portal. Some of the new features that we've added in there in the recent update. Some of you may have already discovered these. Some of you may have not. So we'd just like to go over some of the settings there and how this works so that you guys can be aware of it and the functionality with it, as well as some of the new features there. So today I'm going to hand this over to Adam. Adam's going to go ahead and take today's session, and I'll be here to answer any questions with Eddie as well.
All right, well, welcome everybody. Once again, my name is Adam Morrison. I'm the CTO here at Fast Track. We also have Brian Hidd, which you just heard from. He's the Director of Customer Support. And of course, we have Eddie McCoy as well, the President and owner of Fast Track. Brian and Eddie will both be sitting behind the scenes. If you have any questions, feel free to put those into the Q&A section, and we'll get those answered to you as quickly as possible. We have a lot to go through today, so if there's anything that you need more information on that I do go into, just feel free to send that question in, and like I said, we can stop it and get it addressed. As Brian said, this is part of our ongoing webinar series. This is a general session. We've also had Fast Track user training sessions and what's new functionality from last week. You can always get access to all of our videos from the video icon within your Fast Track software. That's a little red video icon at the bottom here. And by clicking any one of these yellow links, you'll get over to our YouTube playlist where you can look at all the training videos, or this webinar as well will be up there in just a couple of days. If you go to our website, fasttrackcloud.com/webinars, you can actually get a list of all the existing webinars. It's the same thing as clicking on this big red register button at the top right there. Once you click on that, you'll see the list of future webinars, and you can see what's coming down the pipe in the future. All right, so some quick webinar controls. The chat feature that you have here, you can use that to chat amongst yourselves if you have any questions. It's very helpful for others to help others, so that's a good place to do that. The Q&A section over here is the area where if you have questions that pop up during the seminar or during the webinar, go ahead and put them in there, and Brian or Eddie will go ahead and get those answered. And if it's pertinent to everybody, then they will stop me, and we can answer it live for you. And towards the end, if we have time, you could raise your hand. That'll key us that you want to ask a question. And at that point, we'll unmute your mic, and you can ask it live for us. So the webinar agenda today is we're going to go into the customer portal. We're going to discuss exactly what that is, how do you get access to it, and all that fun stuff. We're going to talk about just the standard portal workflow. We'll take you through the steps just to give you an understanding of what's actually happening during the process. And that'll give you a better understanding for where the basic settings and controls are for portal profiles throughout the customer portal. And then lastly, we're going to go into a couple specific examples of the customer portal where you can use the various configuration aspects of it to configure specific workflows to your needs. And we'll get into much more detail then. All right, so what is the customer portal? We've called it a couple different things many times: customer portal, internet reservation portal, internet reservation system, web portal. There's a bunch of different things to it, but basically it's your custom online reservation portal. It's accessible by your customers via a web address. It can be specifically configured to support one or more reservation workflows. So that's important. In the past, the customer portal, it could be customized per customer, and there were some basic options there, but it was just one workflow or one process, one set of steps through the portal. So with this latest release, we allow you to build more than one. So now you can customize that process to your needs, whether you're supporting a hotel or whether you're supporting an end customer or anybody. You can tailor that process specifically to that need, and you can support more than just the one process. It allows new and existing customers to book and manage reservations. Customers can view confirmations, invoices, statements. They can manage addresses, credit cards, passengers, basically their entire profile within that customer portal. And also they have access to some of the real-time features that we've discussed before, like the real-time trip dashboard, the customer or corporate dashboard that gives them access to real-time driver information and a lot of the trip detail, driver photo, vehicle information, estimated travel time, things like that. So all of that real-time functionality is accessible via the customer portal. So that's basically what the customer portal provides to you. All customers get it. It's available to you now. Whether you choose to use it is up to you. And I'm going to walk through the settings so you can start to get an understanding of where you'll start to configure that and how you can start to get comfortable with using the portal before you actually expose it to your end customers. So standard portal workflow, where the process that a customer is going to follow when they go through the portal is, they're going to gain access to the portal via some link, and they're going to do a trip search. So this is where they enter a date, they do a pickup, a drop-off information, they click search, and it returns a list of vehicle types. That's the trip search and results. It's the first step of the portal process. Once they select a vehicle or rate, they then go to the passenger and trip information section where they start entering who's the passenger, perhaps some flight information details, so we have that, perhaps some special instructions. That all gets entered on the passenger trip info step. The third step is the billing info step. Depending on how the customer is configured or if it's a new customer, we ask for credit card information, billing address, billing information, and potentially account and login information. And I'll tell you about that a little bit later. The fourth step is the summary, where we're just going to summarize everything that we've collected during that process: pickup, drop-off, rate, pricing disclaimers, all that fun stuff. And then they'll have a button to hit complete. And once they hit complete, they get a confirmation of complete, and that reservation is booked into the system. So at a high level, this is just the standard basic portal workflow that we have today. We've had it for a while, and this is the process that you expose to your customers. With this last release, we're going to give you specific examples of how you can tailor and customize every aspect of this workflow, including skipping steps if they're not necessary or applicable to the process that you want to support. So with that, we have general settings and portal profiles. Basically, how is the customer portal configured? I'm going to go into a live demo and show you exactly where these things are for those that aren't familiar with it. But basically, you have to select which vehicles you want to allow to book externally. So when you create your vehicles within Fast Track, just like you do today, there's an option to turn on the access for that vehicle type to be used externally within the portal. So once your vehicles are set up, there's some general settings which are used across all of your customer portal. Things, well, we'll go into it specifically, but basically a set of general settings that are used across all profiles, no matter what portal profile they use. The third step is creating portal profiles. These are the workflows. These are the individual workflows to support specific needs for your organization. Everyone starts off with a default profile, which is what everyone's had for a while now. That's the single linear workflow that goes through each one of those steps. That's called your default profile. If they just come into your website and they don't click on any special links or anything like that, this is what they're going to get. They're going to get your default portal profile. And then at a high level, portal profiles themselves allow you to configure scheduling constraints, pricing plan use, pricing display options, limiting the pickup and drop off, which is a big request from some of our customers. The book into, basically, once you've collected all this information, where do we store it? Is it a reservation? Is it a new customer? Is it a group? That type of stuff. And then direct link options, which allow you to send a link to someone so they can book specific to that portal profile. And I promise this will all make more sense once I go into a live demo, which I'm going to do now. All right, so within the Fast Track software, Brian, Eddie, just give me a thumbs up to make sure you can see everything okay. You should see Fast Track at this point. Perfect. All right, so within the Fast Track software, I'm going to show you the vehicle types. So this is our development system, so don't mind the data that you see, but everyone's familiar with vehicles and vehicle maintenance. Within your vehicle type section, you can choose a vehicle type, and there's a setting here. Do not allow booking and internet reservations. So if this is unchecked, that means that I am allowing this vehicle type to show up in search results online. If you had internal only or vehicle types that you didn't want people to book online, you would simply check that box and it would not show up any search results. But this is how you enable this vehicle type to be exposed so your customers can book it online. There's some other information like max number of passengers, max number of bags. This flows all the way out to the customer portal, and this is what the customer sees. There's also some logic around this, so if someone's looking for 5 passengers, it's not going to allow you to book a 3-passenger vehicle. So there are some constraints around that as well that the customer portal supports, but this is all around your vehicle configuration. We also provide a slew of images that you can select from for your vehicle type. You can select one of those. This is the image that will be displayed to your customer when they see that search result in the customer portal. So this is enabling your vehicles to allow them to be searched and booked through your customer portal. Okay, so once that's done, we then want to go over to the system global settings. So this is where most of you are, I'm sure, familiar with this. This is where the majority of Fast Track settings are. This Fast Track settings, there is a tab called Internet Reservations. And if you'll notice, we have general settings and we have portal profile settings. So my goal here is to go through every one of these settings as quickly as possible. Keep in mind that there is a download, you can download this configuration guide right here. It will also walk you through every one of these settings. And you can actually see, it'll actually describe how they're used, where they're used, appropriate values and things like that. So anything you miss here in the video or in the webinar, you can go ahead and download the configuration guide and it will describe it to you as well. So as I said before, these general settings are settings that are used across the entire customer portal. How do people get access to your customer portal? Well, we have a website, mytripcenter.com, which is if they go to that website by itself, it's not going to do anything. It's going to say they're missing an ID. Basically, every customer gets a link which they can expose however you would like, whether it's on your website or email communication, and that link will link out to your customer portal. So for example, my customer portal link, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to remind those of you that have been on the program for a while and maybe have been back in the internet reservations section before, this area right here has changed. So if you go back there today, it will be different than what you had seen before. Even though all of the settings are still there, the page has changed around a little bit. So it's not like this area here has added anything new. It's just changed some of the functionality there. Looks like Adam discovered the internet there, so go ahead.
It's an amazing thing. Yeah, so my Trip Center portal will work on a variety of different browsers. My machine had about 40 some odd instances of Chrome open, so I just had to clean it up a little bit. But yeah, so this is the website. This is the basic website that people come into via your default link. So this is just your My Trip Center link, your customer portal link. It's customized to you via this URL. And what that does is it, depending on the company that's been selected, you'll see that company's logo, you'll see that company's phone information, as well as some other things that can be tailored for your login page. But this is just a simple, basic login for the customer portal. That's what this link does. This second link is just a direct profile link. What this does is allows you to skip the login page. So let's say if you want to just automatically go in for new customers, you can give them that link and they'll skip the login and go right to the booking process. And there's a lot more around this link as well that you can do. But for the most part, most customers just go to the login page there. Just moving right along here. When your customers, and we'll talk about that, when they do receive an invitation to log into the customer portal, generally they're going to get the Fast Track link, this mytripcenter.com. They're going to get that link within that invitation. If you, for some reason, want to send them to a kind of an intermediate landing page, you can override what link they get by customizing this setting right here. This email address will be notified of any new or edited reservations online. Remember, these do also go into your software under Internet Bookings, but if you wanted to get an email specific to the customer portal bookings, that's what this email address is doing right here. The Google Analytics allows you to include an ID within your customer portal. If those of you who aren't familiar with the Google Analytics platform, basically allows you to track usage of your website, gives you a lot of good information like how long they're sitting on certain pages, demographics, where your customers are coming from, things of that nature. There's a link here within the settings to get more information on Google Analytics, so go ahead and check that out. But ultimately, the basic analytics just gives you an ID, and we will include that ID on your portal so you can actually get that information from your customers. This setting right here is basically within a profile. When new customers are created, they can either be enabled or disabled for internet reservations. This checkbox just enables them for internet reservations. The second checkbox actually sends the email. So when you create a new customer, it will automatically send those instructions to log in, including their username and password to get to the portal. So if one enables access to the portal, the other one actually automatically sends the invitation. So it's up to you whether you want to send it to everybody or you want to send it to certain people. Maybe you only want to send it to corporate profile users. However you'd like to do that, you can have it automatically send via this setting, or within the customer profile or the customer or corporate profile contact itself, there's a button to send internet reservation login instructions there as well. And like I said, that's just an email that sends out the link to your customer portal and login information so they can get access. This one here is the custom privacy policy. So kind of in response to some of the GDPR stuff, and I'm sure many of you have seen the need to click on a button on a lot of these websites to capture information. We're exactly the same. So we are, we're not using, and this is what our policy tells you basically, is we're not using your data for anything else other than to capture your reservation information. We don't use it outside of that. We provide our own terms and conditions. It's a fast track terms and conditions page. So when they see that notice on the bottom of the login page, they can click the link. They're going to go to our fast track terms and conditions, which will describe the usage of the data. If you would like to instead send them to your terms and conditions page to better describe how you're using their data, then you can customize this link and customers will see that at the bottom of the login page. Now, once they've clicked it, it gets saved. They don't have to click it again. It remembers that, I think, up to 365 days, so 1 year, and they won't be notified again of that terms and conditions until then. So it just gives you a way to customize the terms and conditions access. There's some basic theming you can do within the portal, colors of buttons, colors and headers. It's very basic, but allow you to be a little closer to what your brand is. That's what this setting is. And then any customer that wants to do any more advanced integration with the customer portal, like putting login pages on your site or things of that nature, there's some custom login setup instructions you can click here. That information is also contained in this downloaded configuration guide. So please check into those if you want any advanced integrations into your website. You don't necessarily want to use our login page. So once again, that's the general settings of the customer portal. So these are used across all portal profiles. So now I'm going to go to the portal profiles section. And just a reminder, portal profiles, think of them as just a process. It's a customized process, a customized booking process that you've created. And instead of just the one process, which we used to have, now you can have any number of custom processes. And there's a variety of ways to give that booking process to someone so they can book through that process. And we'll go through those. But from a portal profile perspective, there's one portal profile that's special. It's called the default profile. You cannot delete it. This is the one that is used by default, obviously. If they come into your website and have not come in through any special link that we've done or anything like that, it's just your default website, they get the default profile. So this is where, in this default profile, is where you're going to set up your default pricing for new customers and things of that nature. However, as necessary, you can create additional portal profiles. So I'll go ahead and just click the add button here. So within this portal profile, let's say and we'll go some detail in a little bit, but let's say you have a link that you want to create because you want to send it to a hotel so that they can book their own pricing, or they can book their own rides for their customers directly into your system. What a portal profile does is you'd want to have a custom booking process just for them. So you probably create a portal profile for that hotel, and you'd probably give it to them via link so they can click on that link and book through your process. So looking at this process here, you can set the company, which, like I said, describes the branding. If someone were to access this profile or book through that profile, this is where you set the branding, company name, phone information, things of that nature. This setting right here we're going to talk about a little later. This is the booking type. That's more of an advanced setting. I highly recommend you guys stay away from that until you're absolutely positively sure what it does. because it can really change the core way that your portal works. So we want to make sure that it's set up right before you actually enable that. You can choose to limit the pickup time frame. So for example, if someone goes to, if you remember the start page where they actually type in the scheduled pickup date and the addresses, stops, that type of stuff, you can also choose to say, hey, if someone tries to access this profile, so they've clicked on a link from the hotel or some other mechanism that we'll describe, only allow them to book during a certain time. Maybe it's a special pricing only for the month of February, which means that their pickups have to be within February. So you can do stuff like that. Perhaps it's a time frame for a specific event. Maybe the Honda Classic was only for a week and you only want to book special rates during that week. You can go ahead and set up and limit the scheduled pickup time to sometime within that week, so they can't reuse that portal profile sometime in the future. And then some basic settings that you've seen before, like lead times, whether to when you can create new reservations versus edit reservations, how much time before pickup is allowed. The edit lead time is actually in the default profile. The new reservation can be modified per other portal profile. So you'll see it there. Some pricing options. So once again, depending on your workflow, you may want to show base price. You may show total price. You might not want to show a price at all. These are all customizable options within the portal profile. Overriding a target pricing plan, very, very important. I would suspect that this is what most of our customers are going to want to do. If you want to provide the hotel with special pricing, you're probably going to want to target a custom pricing plan for that. You're not going to want to use your default pricing plan. If you're doing an airport shuttle or you're doing a wine and country tour or something of that nature, you might have a different hourly price or different minimums and things like that for those types of trips. So if you're creating a portal profile for a specific workflow, it's really going to key in on how is the pricing going to be dictated for that booking. That's where you can override and customize which pricing plans you want to search on. And of course, these can search on, you can have one or more. You can search on zone pricing. You can search on geo pricing, just the same. It'll search across both or any and all pricing plans that you select, and it will choose the cheapest vehicle rate and display that to the customer. There's an option to enable or disable hourly pricing if you want to use that. And then there's some text that you can customize down at the bottom here, like disclaimers. Maybe the pricing disclaimer needs to be different for a wine and country tour versus a regular airport shuttle or just general searches. You can customize all of that here. All right, the next one is a fun one. Let me get past that. So limiting the pickup and drop-off options. So in the past, when you book through the portal, it was just a text box. It was enabled with Google Autocomplete. So you could start typing anything and it would do an auto search for your airports. It would actually, if you were logged in, it would also search across your profile addresses. And it would search across Google Autocomplete across any address in the area. So that basically allowed a customer to enter anything. Now, if they enter anything, it still has to match pricing. So if they type up an address in Australia, your pricing doesn't support Australia, they're going to get 0 search results. So even though it allowed them to search a much broader area, at the end of the day, it still had to match a search or match a pricing zone or geo price within your pricing plans that were targeted for that process. So limiting the pickup and drop-off locations now, you can do them independently. Once they're limited, you can then choose whether or not I want to use an address or an airport. So for example, for this profile, if I say I want to go ahead and pick up from Phoenix Airport, maybe it's an airport shuttle, maybe it's an event, I'm not sure, I can go ahead and put Phoenix Airport. Now for pickup locations, there's going to be a drop-down, no longer a text box. So that drop-down is going to have only a single option in it to select the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. So this allows you to create a workflow that targets specific pricing and also limits for what the user can select. This is very helpful for events. Maybe you have a convention coming in, you're just doing shuttles from airport to hotels or hotels to convention center or whatever it may be, and you don't want the user to be able to query other things and book other jobs. This allows you to limit what they can actually query, search, and book through that process. And like I said, it can be done for both the pickup and the drop-off location. All right. The next one is booking and customer options. This is a fun one too. So when you're booking the reservation, so there's a lot of data being collected. So we walked through the process before where you did a trip search result. Potentially you had a rate selection. You've collected some passenger information, special instructions, perhaps billing information. All of this has to be collected and put somewhere. Under the default process, and what most of you are familiar with, it's going to book a new customer reservation. If they've logged in, it would book under their existing customer profile. So those were the targets. The targets were only those. Now you can kind of tweak exactly where you want those bookings to go. So if they're targeting a custom portal profile, not the defaults, you can say where that booking goes. So for example, once again, if you've created a specialized portal link just for an event, maybe it's a convention that comes into town, you can have that convention and people enter their information, and instead of booking reservations, you can target a group. And now those are going to be saved as group passengers so that you can actually manage those a little bit later on. So you have some flexibility as to where that booking is going to land under a new customer, existing customer, or a group target. So that's the book into stuff, and I'll show you some specific examples about that in just a few minutes. The ability to require a credit card information. Sometimes you just want to collect information. Sometimes you want to require customer information. A lot of times when you're not requiring a credit card, that's because somebody else is flipping the bill. So what we see a lot of times is I don't want to require a credit card, but I want to book under this corporate affiliation because it's going to bill corporate. At which point you're not going to want to expose that to everybody. So it's probably going to be a link that you send to that corporate profile to do their bookings. So there's a lot of flexibility here. And even when Brian and I were going through some of these examples, it's very hard to define a specific example because there is so much, there is the ability to customize it to suit your needs. As you guys have questions and kind of say, hey, I think this is going to work for how I want to do or how I want to work the process, let us know that. Let us know what you're trying to accomplish, and we can give you some insight into how specifically to meet that goal with these portal profiles, because there's a lot of flexibility here that can get a little bit confusing at times. The last one here, this is just some more text customizations within the website, so you can customize the pickup and drop-off notes instead of it just saying drop-off instructions. You could customize it to say, hey, I did request additional services and whatnot. And then if you are booking at the end of the booking, there's a couple things that can happen. If you're an existing customer, then you'll just get your list of reservations and you'll be logged in at that point. If you're not allowing account creation, then it's just going to be a standard web page that says your booking is complete. Thank you very much. You'll receive more information later. Or we can redirect to some other link. So maybe it's part of some process that you have hooked up to your website, and you want us to throw them back to your website for any sort of follow-up or survey or anything else you could think of. You can actually have a custom redirect link after the process is complete. And that is what this setting is here. Okay? All right. And the last step is the direct link option. So this is the fun one. Of course, I think they're all fun, but direct link option here, this is where you ask the question is, how do people get access to these portals? How do they get access to this booking process? If they just come in through your standard link, they're going to get the default portal. All right, they're going to get the default process. So how can I send them to a link that takes them through my custom workflow that does all the limiting and all this other stuff? Well, you can do that through this direct link option. So if I enable the direct link option, I now get a custom link. In general, it's basically this little piece of it right here. There's some information in the link that says this is the workflow, this is the profile that I want this customer to book into. So once again, let's say you've given this link out to that convention manager or the convention coordinator that's coming in so they can book their traveler bookings. They could provide this link to them, and that's going to target this profile to be used instead of your default profile. They still go through the website. The website looks very similar to how it does in the default profile, but all of these settings that you've configured for this profile will be in play. Whether they're targeting different pricing, limiting pickup drop-off locations, scheduling constraints, all that type of stuff is going to be customized because they came in via this specialized direct link for this profile. With this direct link, there's a couple steps that you can enable if you like. You can enable link availability, which is different than schedule availability, because maybe you want the link to be available, 2 months ahead of time, but regardless, they can only schedule within a 1-week time frame. So this basically says this is how long this link is available. If they try to access the link after the end date, they'll get an expiration notice and say the link is no longer valid. You can also provide a password. So this password, if you want to type something in here, now when they access via this link, they actually have to enter a password to actually book through that process. So just some other ways you can or can't turn them on, it's up to you, just to help limit unauthorized access to some of these portal profile links. You also have full functionality to enable and disable these profiles at any time. So if you have one that's active but you don't want to activate it anymore, you can just go ahead and disable it and it will no longer be allowed to be booked within the portal. So that is a quick rundown of the portal profile. So hopefully right now you have a good understanding of just the basic workflow of the customer portal. The default way of getting access to it is just your default link, is what you guys are used to today. But you can also tailor how these direct links that you can provide to some other person or some other coordinator, and if they book through those profile links, they can actually use that custom process, custom pricing, and all those settings specific to that portal profile. All right, so Brian or Eddie, if you guys don't have any questions for me so far, I'm going to go ahead and continue with the actual demo of the processes.
No, I think you're good right now, Adam. So.
Okay.
Here we
All
are.
right. So hopefully I don't have any internet issues, but we'll see how it goes. So I've got a couple profiles. Actually, let me show them to you here. The first one I'm going to show you is just a common request from our customers. And let's see, I've created one called Preferred Provider of ABC Travelers. So I actually have a quick write-up of this so we can see exactly what this is. So Preferred Provider of ABC Travelers, this is just an example of how you might use the custom portal profiles. You're the preferred provider for a set of travelers coming into your area within a specific time frame. The travelers are paying for their own transportation and will be given special rates between the airport and both the hotels. So, there's a wide variety of reasons why you might do this, but the key here is the customers are paying, which means we need to collect credit card information. You want to limit, because of those special rates, you want to limit exactly where they can pick up and drop off from, and you want to limit the time frame. So this all sounds like a good reason to use a custom portal profile. So settings for this is going to be, we're going to limit the time frame. We're going to target a specific pricing plan, which is specific to this use. We're going to require a credit card. We're going to limit pickup and drop-offs. And we want to enable that direct link so that we can provide it to the coordinator so that they can give it to the travelers to do their bookings through the preferred provider. So if I look at this profile, so once again, this is my list of profiles. All right, I have a whole bunch in here, but the ones I'm going to key in today are these two here. The preferred profile is configured to support everything I just described. So we're limiting the scheduled time frame. We can change our lead times if we need to. I want to show them base price. I'm targeting a specific, actually 2 pricing plans here, but you can choose to do what you wish. I'm targeting specific pricing plans for this purpose. I don't want hourly options to be available. I can customize some message if I would like to. I am limiting where I want those users to be able to pick up from. I've added an airport and 2 hotels, the primary hotel and perhaps the overflow hotel. I want to book these as new customer reservations. So I'm the preferred provider, but I want them to be their own customers. When I do that, they're going to receive confirmations, everything they usually do as a customer. And for whatever reason, I'm also going to set them up under the ATM Corporation corporate affiliation. Once again, it's not a requirement. You can do this if you need to. If you don't set that, they just won't have a corporate affiliation. And I do want to require credit card information because the customer is paying, so I need to collect that credit card. I don't think they need to create accounts for later use, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off that option. I'm not going to worry about customizing any of the settings. And most importantly, I need to get access to this link because I need to be able to provide this link to that coordinator so that they can give it to those customers to do those bookings. I'm going to allow the link to be available through the end of March and first week of April, and there's a password to access the link. So that's how this portal profile has been set up. Now, once again, I have to have that link to get access to the portal profile. So let's say I'm a coordinator. They've sent me that link. It's either in an email, a text it doesn't matter how I got it. It's probably sitting on a website with some booking instructions or part of some sort of corporate events informational section. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what you'll notice is, one, I didn't get the login page because there is no login. There's no new user, existing user. This is me coming directly into the portal. So it bypassed that login page completely. I did put a password on this. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my password. And now at this point, I'm getting very much similar screens that I would get even through the default process. There's a couple of things happening here. One, we turned off hourly, so you don't see that. If I try to book somewhere outside of that reservation, even though the link was active, if I try to book outside of that reservation, it's not going to allow me. I'll show you that. I've limited. Now I don't have a free-form text field like I used to. Now I'm actually limited to where I want to book from. And I can go ahead and book. Now it's telling me that I can't book because I'm not booking within the allowed time frame. So that allowed time frame was from April 1st to April 5th. So let's go ahead and say, I'm coming in on April 2nd. Now when I search, it'll allow me through. And now it's searching those pricing plans that I've targeted specific to this profile. It is not targeting the default pricing. It is not targeting any other pricing except for what is defined within that portal profile for this link. So this is a specific profile for this link. You'll notice the vehicle images that we configure within vehicle types. You'll see some information around people and suitcases, the max number of people and bags that are allowed within those vehicles. You'll see things like customized text here. You'll see things, you'll see the base rate. You're not going to see all the full detailed rate because that's what I chose within the portal profile. And we're going to get a list of results that are allowed and available for that trip. I'm going to go ahead and select one of these. I now go to the second step, which is the passenger information. So let's see, Brian Hood. We'll give his phone number out so everyone has it. Kidding, Brian. And if this was airport information, we would also get select the airport, put in a flight number, things like that. I can add an alias if I'd like to. Brian, the support guy. And that's it. Now, if my pricing, in my pricing plan, as we said this in the last webinar we had, but in the pricing plan, if you have enabled fixed charge items to be selectable by the customer, they're going to show up here. And that's what these are. So these are configured within the pricing plan and the fixed charge item configuration. So we've said that these 4 things can be selected as part of this process. I'm not going to go ahead and select any. We still, once again, we see some custom text that was added down here. You can do what you like there. I like candy. All right. So going ahead and put those in. Now, because we are requiring a credit card, it's going to take me to the billing section. Let's see. Let me grab a fake credit card here. And Brian, unless you want to tell everybody your credit card number. All right, just checking. All right. Just trying to get some sort of laugh out of Brian, but nothing so far. All right, so I've entered my credit card information because this portal profile requires billing information. It requires a credit card. Down at the bottom for the new customer, I'm creating a new customer as part of this profile. Now, what you're not seeing is there's one section that was removed was password. Since we're not creating accounts, it's not asking for the password, so it is hiding that section. Under your default process, the account creation is allowed, and you would actually see it asking for a password down here. But in this case, we're not going to do that. Don't need to save this credit card, so we go to the summary screen. By the way, all this information on the side, your logo up top, all of that was dictated by the company that was selected for that profile. If you had a shuttle service that uses a different company brand, You would simply select that company brand for that profile, and they would see that information, they would see those logos as part of the booking process. So keep that in mind as well. So this is just some summary of my trip. Here's some more disclaimer text that you can customize down at the bottom. I click finish, and because I'm not creating an account and I didn't choose to redirect, I just have a generic page. You're done. Your reservation was saved successfully. Now, behind the scenes, this flows into Fast Track. So this portal profile was creating new customers. It's generating a confirmation. It's doing all of that stuff in the Fast Track system. So this portal profile is dictating what's happening here, but it's not dictating any communication settings that you have within the Fast Track software itself for new customers. So that's still there. So that's kind of an overview of the preferred traveler. So once again, I've given this link to the travel organizer because I'm the preferred provider. They then will give that to their travelers. If anybody needs to book travel, they can book through that link. And I was able to book specific pricing, limited pickup and drop-offs, special disclaimer text, special vehicle types and rates, all of that via that customizable link. Okay. Brian, did you have anything you wanted to add to this process?
Just your personal cell number, but I'll hand that out later.
Very nice. Thank you. All right.
One thing, no, Adam. I think you touched on the unique link, and you kind of, I think, glossed over where they can find these links at any time. Mm-hmm. Just click on that portal or that profile, and you can see those individual links there.
Correct. All right. So that was this preferred traveler. Now, another scenario I came up with, and once again, these scenarios are not specific. You can tweak them, you can customize them, you can find some collection of settings to support the process you need. And I suspect that we will broaden some of definitely our book intos later, and probably some of these other settings to make them a little more customizable. But if you're looking for a specific workflow and you can't see exactly how to do it within the process, let us know. Let's see what we can do. We'll see if the current settings can support that process. And perhaps if it's something that we feel would be beneficial to more than just yourself or to the broader audience, that's something we can certainly add at a later release. Okay, so I'm going to go through another one here. So this one is kind of a managed group billing or booking. So in this case, you are the provider. You're managing a group or convention coming into town. Let's say the Honda Classic is coming into town and you're running the shuttles to and from the golf course every morning. Travelers are not paying for their own travel. They're going to be generally sharing shuttles to and from events. So to me, that doesn't sound like a reservation for a single passenger. It's really a collection of passengers under a single reservation. You want to collect traveler information and assign scheduled vehicles as needed to meet the traveler demand and schedule. So you don't know if you're going to need one shuttle, 4 shuttles, you don't know how often, all that type of stuff. So as part of collecting this information is really giving you a nice idea for what you're going to need to put together and who, what, and where is going to go for each one of these shuttle rides. So I've created a setting for Sony Corporate Retreat. Some key aspects of it are, the travel pickup is limited. We're not going to show vehicle pricing because that's nothing they care about. They just want to know about shuttles to and from. They're not required to put in a credit card. We do want to limit pickup and drop-offs to only where our shuttles are going to be picking up. And we do want to provide a link so that people can book this information into our system so we can collect and manage it later on. So let me show you what that looks like. I have a Sony Corporate Retreat here, and there's really one key aspect that's different here. The other ones are just tweaked just a little bit, but we've limited the time frame. You'll notice a whole bunch of options are hidden here. Basically, when you see stuff missing, it's just because they're not applicable. So you have pricing options. There's no pricing options enabled, and it's really, I'm going to start over here, is because we've enabled a group target. So when you're booking into a group, we're just collecting information at this point. Who you are, where you're going, when are you going, what do you need, any special instructions, things of that nature, and then we can make decisions of how best to support that via whatever the shuttle schedule, size of vehicle. Maybe it's a sedan because it's 2 people, but it's a people mover because it's 10. Who knows? So in this case, we're booking a group, and for that reason, there's no pricing that's going to be shown because that pricing information doesn't pertain to a group. We are limiting the pickup and drop-offs because I only want to go from certain areas. We can customize this text just the same. One aspect of the group that you're going to need to do is if you book into a group, you're going to have to create the group ahead of time. I'll show you how to do that real quick. But once that group's created, then you can actually select it from the drop-down list. You can also choose to send an email confirmation because remember, since this is just landing in a group, there's no reservation in Fast Track, so there's no confirmations in Fast Track. Nothing's being sent like that. So we've given you the ability just to send a simple email to them that says, hey, yes, we've got your information. Thank you. There's also the details of that booking will go into that email, like their pickup and drop off. So all the stuff that they've collected will go into that email so they can confirm it. Of course, in your general settings, the person that gets the email address that was specified there will also get that confirmation email. And at the end of the day, it's going to be saved directly into your group within Fast Track. Now for this one, we want to go ahead and give that link out to that coordinator once again so they can start doing their travel bookings. And we want that link to be available certain times, all that kind of fun stuff. So pretty much the same as we had before. So that's how this Sony corporate retreat setting workflow is set up. I do want to show you, let's see, the group option real quick. So groups is just an area if you're not familiar with it. We actually have a webinar coming up, I think in 2 weeks, Brian, something like that. 2 weeks, perfect. So if you want to learn more about groups and how groups are managed, I'm sure he'll talk about the portal profiles just a little bit as well. But ultimately, it allows you to bulk import via Excel or a CSV file all of your passengers into the group section. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and open up Sony Corporate Retreat. You can import your passengers into this, and then you can make decisions later on of what reservations, vehicles, when, wheres, and whys. You can do all that as part of a group instead of individual passengers. So he'll go into that in a later webinar, but just know that as part of the portal profile, we've chosen the book into target to be a group. And for that reason, once we've collected that information through the process, we're going to place that information into this group. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close this window and open up a new one. So this is my custom link. So it's the same, it's the link that I copied directly out of the profile. We put a password on it. Otherwise, it would have gone right to this screen. So once again, the screen looks the same as it always did before. The difference is we have saved all of the pricing settings, all of the text settings, customization settings, what's required, what's not. We've saved that, and we've kind of set up this workflow to support that. So now the customer portal, your customer portal knows that, hey, this is a Sony Retreat booking, so it's going to tweak the workflow to support the process that you've configured. So I know that I have to book sometime in April. I have limited drop-off. I know I'm going to go from the convention center over to Hyatt House, Scottsdale. All right. Now, in this case, you'll notice that I didn't have to select a rate. I didn't have to select a vehicle. It's because there's no pricing involved here. We don't want them to select a rate in a vehicle because we don't know what that vehicle is going to be. It could be a sedan if there's only one person at that time. It could be a people mover if there's 20. Who knows? So that was a key aspect here, is we didn't have to go and get a search result. We simply entered our information. It went to the next step. So we'll go ahead and this time we'll add Eddie. And Eddie, your cell phone is, just kidding, at somewhere.com. And no instructions for Eddie because Eddie's an easy traveler. And we now go to our summary page. Once again, we skipped another step. There's no billing. Not only did we have to not select the rate and do a search, but we also didn't have to enter billing information because there's no billing applicable here. So literally, if you don't put in a password, they enter their date and their pickup locations, their passenger information, they get a confirmation screen, and they hit finish. Now this reservation was saved successfully. That customer, that email address, whoever eddyTTT@somewhere.com is, will receive an email with the details of the information. That information will also get copied to the email address within your general settings so that your fast track operator can get that information. And then within the group itself, that reservation was targeting the Sony Corporate Retreat. So if I open up the Sony Corporate Retreat, I would expect to see Eddie's information here, which I do. And now I can see that information. I can see the information that was collected as part of the booking process. And at some time, at a later time, now that I'm collecting all of these passengers, I can then use the group functionality to generate those reservations within Fast Track, so I actually have vehicles or shuttles or sedans to pick them up. So that is, in a nutshell, just an example of this group billing booking process. And once again, that's just one process we put in place here. There's a whole bunch of other processes that you can do. So a couple examples here. I'm going to skip the top part for just a second. Maybe you have a transportation provider who has agreed to provide hotel guests a special rate for transportation to and from the hotel or resort, but you want to bill it to the customer in limited pickup drop-off options. You can certainly use a portal profile to do that. Maybe you have an in-house transportation for some resort that provides transportation to their guests, but there's no price needs to be displayed to the guests because that price is going to get automatically added on to the customer's portfolio or folio at the hotel. You know, in that case, you would hide pricing. You have some agreement with the hotel itself. So once again, you just want to limit the booking process. If you don't need to capture credit card information because it's already managed as part of that hotel, then turn it off for that customer portal process. So there's a wide variety of ways to configure your portal profiles to support one or more workflows, whatever you're looking for. Brian, do you have anything before I go into booking types briefly? I know we've got just a couple minutes left.
No, not right yet. You're good.
Okay. So booking types, real quick. This is the one that I cautioned you against. Let me go ahead and pick it up here. So within global settings, so if you create a workflow, so this workflows, we've talked about giving a link out to somebody else and they use that link to get access to your profile. Well, if you enable this option right here, show booking type, all right, what that does is we add an extra step, a first step. And this is for new and existing customers. And importantly, it will affect your default process. If you check that box, you are affecting your default process. So what happens is, instead of going right to the search page, what we do is we give them an intermediate page. And we say, okay, I want to show them an option. What do you want to book? So maybe you have a portal for airport shuttle, wine and country tour, whatever it is, and you want to give your customers the option to choose which one they want, okay? Because every one of those might have a different pricing plan. One you might correct credit cards, one might go into a group, whatever it is, you can expose those portal profiles within this dropdown as an option to your customers before they start the booking process. If you do this, you are effectively removing your default process. You're getting rid of it. Because instead of the default process with default pricing and all that type of stuff, the customer's making a decision here. And when they select that wine and country tour, that wine and country tour, it's a one-to-one to your profile, to your workflow. It's going to load the settings for your wine and country tour portal profile, and it's going to use those settings for the booking process, whatever it is. So be very careful when enabling that booking type. Make sure you've tested the options in that dropdown to make sure they do exactly what you want, including pricing, credit cards, and things of that nature. And there's a lot of information about this within the configuration guide. It will describe the booking types, how to use them, how to enable them, all that kind of good stuff. So just keep in mind, before you enable that, anything that's been enabled, this column right here basically says anything that's been enabled for a booking type, which is this checkbox right here, that means that this Phoenix Shuttle profile, this is actually the user-friendly name of it, this Phoenix Shuttle profile will be available within that booking type dropdown. And if a customer selects it, it's going to use the settings of that profile for the booking process. Okay.
Hey, Adam, real
Yes.
quick, do you have any setup that you could click on the default link and just show them that selection there real quick, what you're referring to?
Perhaps. The reason I didn't show it is because it is cached.
Probably.
And it takes about 5 minutes for it to run. However, I'm going to try to do it real quick locally. So give me just 1 second and I'll show you. Are you talking about the booking type, Ryan?
Yeah, just being where that selection is made on that first page you hit there. One thing I do want to kind of tell people that one of the things that Adam added in there, if you look next to every one of those links, there's a little button there that says view. It'll say view. What that does is it enables you to go directly to that link, whether it's the default ones there or the portal ones. So as you're testing, you don't need to send this out to your customer. Go ahead and click on the view, see what it does. That way you're going to know before you send it out. Okay, go ahead, Adam.
All right, let me make sure it works. So once I said these settings, if you guys do some testing, the login page settings, anything there takes about 5 minutes. So we cache those. We don't want to query it in real time just for performance reasons. So if you do make a setting, it may not be allowed immediately or may not be shown immediately. So let me go ahead and show you the booking type. So once again, as I said, it takes over your default process. So I'm going to go to just a local application I have, which I restarted so the cache got cleared. And even if I log in for existing customers or new customers, in this case I'm going to go ahead and do a new customer. If I click that, instead of going directly to the trip search results like I've been every other time, it's going to ask me, what do I want to do? This list of options here of booking types is directly related to the list of portal profiles that I've enabled for external access. So for example, I have my Sony Corporate Retreat and Preferred Provider. Those haven't been enabled as an external trip type. However, all of these other ones, Simple Groups, Standard Bookings, Limited Pickup Drop-Off, Honda Classic, all of those have been enabled, which means I would expect to see all of those within my process. So when I click on these, now that I've enabled this process, or I've selected this process, it's the same set of screens. However, we've loaded the profile that they've selected. Pricing, options, display, pickup drop, all of that's been enabled. So for example, I now have not limited pickup locations, so now I've been given the old way of doing things. And just typing in any addresses and getting my results. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, read the documentation. It really goes into how those profiles are configured. Take Brian's advice of, open those links in your browser. You can test these without enabling them. So if you don't want to enable booking types just yet, but you do want to test those types ahead of time, enable a direct link. It does the same thing. Enable that direct link so you can get to that profile directly. Once you've tested it that way, you know you can expose it within that dropdown and it's going to book just like you want it to. So that pretty much sums up the portal profiles. We've gone through a variety of different scenarios. We've gone through general settings, given you a couple demos. If you guys have any questions, which I'm sure you might, feel free to send them in to support@fasttrackcloud.com. Like I said, if there's anything that, a process you have in mind that you'd like to support, let us know what that is. Send some questions in and we'll give you some guidance on how you might set that up. If there's something that's missing in these settings, which could very well be the case, then by all means, if we think it's applicable to all of our customers, that's something we might add in a future release. So that's good feedback and good information that we're looking for. This was the conclusion of a lot of conversations with customers. We expanded a little further than we wanted to, but we saw benefit there. But we know there's still some need for from perhaps some new settings to really support what you guys are trying to accomplish. So make sure you get those into us so we can have a look. They're going to receive a survey at the end of this. Go ahead and fill that out. Give us any feedback you can. That's very helpful for future webinars as well as future functionality. So that's appreciative. And in just a couple weeks or so, we'll go ahead and send out the winner of that $50 American Express gift card for those who have filled out the surveys. Brian, Eddie, do you have anything else before we wrap up the webinar today? Well, there's been a bunch of questions. I don't know if any of them were relevant to all that we should bring up.
Oh, they were all good questions. I think a lot of them we addressed there. Some of them are relatively specific. So Arthur has one here. Arthur, I'll answer that offline because I think that's more specific to you. But the answer is yes there. Okay. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay. All right. Well, on behalf...
Just one reminder to everybody, those that have enjoyed seeing us through the internet on a weekly basis, Adam and I will be appearing live in person next week in Las Vegas. So if anybody would like to come and see us, maybe get a picture taken with us, you're welcome to come by the booth.
Oh, Brian. Yes, totally lining up for you, Brian, I'm sure. All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate everybody coming out today. Like I said, these will be uploaded to YouTube, and you can replay this webinar. Check out that documentation. And of course, if you have any questions, support@fasttrackcloud.com. We will get those answered to you as soon as we can. But thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.